My presentation this evening is not all about new things. These are old things, but it is a review of what exactly we've been seeing, we've been doing. Sometimes we overlook, but now we want to check back. Because when you recall from the last presenter, at one time he was called, someone was inquiring over what took place in the previous workshop. He asked a question. Some of these, if you had called, I wouldn't expect you to run out of credit saying maybe that thing, maybe this. You just go straight to the point and without wasting time, maybe I give you the solution possible. Power and electricity. If I may say, these are the S1 things we looked at that level. And as we go this workshop, there are things we will not shy away. Because all the time we shall be measuring voltage, current, resistance, and other things. Current, the units are seized in amps. I'm not here to give the meaning of voltage, but at least you can see that it is measured in voltage. Resistance in ohms. And then we come up and say that Ohm's law states that the current through a conductor between 2 points is directly proportional to the potential difference V across two terminals, where V is equal to IR. If that was our resistor at the two end points, we measure that voltage and we get there over the formula. Work. Work is the force acting through a distance. For example, we are tapping power from the wall socket finally to the rod, and maybe if one coming and asked what was exactly taking place. Then you explain the whole story, but trying to explain exactly what you are doing, and that is work. As I said, no new word, only just a review of what we've been doing. Just check ourselves. Then we say energy, the ability to do work. Mr. MC has been good to us. All the time is taking us for some refreshments to be energized. So that at least we can push on up this time. That is the ability to do work and be in various forms such as heat, mechanical or chemical, and measured in joules. And when we put all that together from current, resistance, work, energy, we drive to power, which we say that it is the energy per unit time and it is measured in watts. Where P is equal to VI and E is equal to that small t. DC electricity. Now here you look at the screen, it is a graph. We say current, the flow of electrons in a set is always in the same direction. One talked of that when he was trying to explain a PN junction, a diode. As he was talking of that forward bias. Here I come up with the graph of batteries and the PV modules. The lower line is indicating our reference point. Then that straight blue line is our graph. Here you don't expect to get a waveform. No. When maybe I'm trying to demonstrate that on the CRO, you will see that you only take the jump to determine that voltage, the DC voltage. AC electricity. Determinants of a potential energy source alternative between positive and negative. The current also alternates between positive and negative, whereby the frequency in the system describes the number of cycles in a second, and it is measured in hertz. Here we have a waveform. The up part from the reference point is the positive. As it comes down to complete the full cycle, that is the negative part of it. And it continues in order to make the undamped oscillation. So as it keeps on doing so, then we say it is alternating. Now, in summary of the DC and AC electricity, in addition to the graph you saw, I come up with a full wave rectification using two diodes, whereby I have my AC generator here, or a transformer, which is taking the 2-volt supply, the grid. Then the second part of it, 1 8, if I may call this point A, is supplying the diode 1. Then the CT, which is centered up, goes through a resistor RL. Then the down part is feeding the second diode. So across the diodes here, we have AC. But after the diode, now we have DC. So here we are going to look at the full wave sinusoidal waveform here. Then here, we expected to have DC. So there is the AC report, the remains. We shall check using our CRO that DC component, where you shall be able to see that straight line. So let him switch on, because sometimes we've been taken by the virtual instrumentation. You assume, you think it is there. When people go on to check, they realize you always related, but it is not there. So hope you shall be able to see on the screen. Now I have two waveforms here. One waveform, the upper one, the one exactly taking us to that sine wave, the upper one. Now the lower one is the DC after rectification. But when you try to check, on the display here, I have AC. But when I try to lower, hope you can see here, my output is on the second last line. Now when I change from AC to DC, do you see the jump? From here the third last line. Now when I multiply that plus my scale, then I get the DC voltage across the load resistor. In other words, here with DC, you can't get the waveform we started with. Is it okay?
You will be able to come and
touch. The diagram is there and the book, so one will be free to check. I have DC versus AC electricity. Already people explained about the grid electricity. Now here we look at where exactly DC is more useful than AC. Grid electricity is AC and great majority of household and industrial electrical appliances are designed before. Here, as you see, our Sierra board. We are plugging it in the AC wall socket and we claim we are using AC. But inside there is a transformer which is doing the step down, then after that converting AC in DC and ending up using DC. So if I had my DC source which can at least operate that cell, then I don't need the grid. AC appliances are more widely available and have a wide selection than DC appliances. This is true. You need a shaver. You first think of power. For getting to check on the voltage, it requires to apply that shaver. Very many of us will fail because of the grid problem. Something you would have taken, you first pick on power. But when we go solar and you didn't know that my shaver requires 3 volts, then you will not fail. PV Alliance produce DC and convert to DC to AC in the inverter as required. Dr. Klo here mentioned about the inverters. Someone asked why actually his battery is draining very fast, as he promised that we shall be able to see that tomorrow. But not also forgetting the load. We insert on the battery as we try to invert that AC into DC, which ends up failing the system. For small stand-alone systems, DC appliances are more efficient. Here, if one is looking at the DC appliances, there are quite a number of factors one wouldn't ignore. When they say small stand-alone systems are more efficient, we don't need to transmit, do we? No. They are flexible. You wake up, you say, I don't want it here. Let it be the other side. You don't have to consult. The current, most DC equipment, apart from those which brings high current, it takes small current. They are not consuming directly from the source. There is that conversion and finally we find that it is taking small current. DC appliances may cost more than AC. Reason is over what exactly I've just talked about. If something is good, then it is worth it that much. This is where exactly we've been failing to take solar. Why? Because of the cost. And if it was bad, then nobody would even love to go and waste all that much. Limitations of DC systems. Appliances choice is reduced. Here now, just to be mindful, if you are to use 5 energy savers, for example, and they are all on your DC source, then you must know when to use. If you think the other side you don't need it, then you switch off, so that you don't have to load the source. Otherwise, the whole system still keeps on failing, and in so they are very few. Replacement parts or service for DC appliances may be more difficult than standalone appliances. When solar just started, people were going in for 12 volts energy savers. But if one was to look at the cost, you find a small DC energy saver was costing around 35,000. And for the AC, between 2,500 you can get. But the efficiency just have to serve for over 5 years. Whereas this one, by a mere surge, it goes. Appliances will have to operate at the same voltage than the system. This brings in a question. Myself, I'm a technician. Very many people in the rural areas you find he has a black and white TV using a 12 volt battery. Because the TV itself takes between 12 to 14 volts. Now you bring in your 12 volts battery. Immediately you are operating it. It is on B of the battery. After a short while, by let's say the drop of 2 volts, the TV can't work anymore. So here, you find now what you need is almost beyond what you have. So that again pushes us back to the AC conversion. Since the system are low voltage, any higher appliance will need big cables for current. This is the worst with DC. You need high current. As we go towards the end of the presentation or the workshop, people now will have choices. I want to run this, but forgetting that they are running on the 12 volts and leaving out the load. DC, for sure, you need high current. This is what throws us into putting 2 batteries in parallel to raise current. DC plus AC electricity. Advantages of AC systems. Their survey was over the DC. Availability of standard appliances. Here, as I said, all these are using DC. For the laptop, it is about 18.5. But because of the AC, we end up plugging in the 220-volt socket. Then the system does the rest of the work rather than taking the DC directly. Reduce transmission losses. This is always the AC generators are taken into accountability to see that they reduce the loss. You find that maybe you are working on a transformer. The manufacturer gives you plus or minus 20% efficiency, meaning that at least if it is to be of that bad, it doesn't go beyond that point. So minimize losses, otherwise the end user find that you have less than what is being generated. Availability for cabling, for standard cabling. When you go on market, which some of us have been doing, you find that in most cases, if not so careful, even the supplier drags you to buy what you did not go just because of what he has. You went for this, you are converted to buy an AC. You went for AC the other round, if not so careful, you end up taking a different cable. So availability for standard cabling of AC, it is more compared to that of DC. High voltage that flow, that allow lower currents. Unfortunately, we did not carry most of our equipment. But if I may ask you, just to feel free, you pass by physics department. There are power supplies generating high voltage beyond 350, but the current is in mid-amps. High voltage that allow lower currents. Too small, in that one can even touch, which is not the case with DC. Disadvantages of AC systems. Here we see that we need inverters with enough capacity for the peak power. When one talks of solar, you will think of AC. As you go towards AC, then you need the inverter. And as you think of the inverter, one will ask you the load. What do you want to put on that inverter? What exactly do you intend to use your AC after inversion? So here, you need an inverter of that capacity to take your load. Inverter efficiencies. We say 80%. Most of the inverters on market, one will just give you it is generating AC. Efficiency you don't talk about. But when you go in details of the efficiency of that inverter, you even find that instead of giving you the sinusoid, it is giving you a sawtooth or a square wave. Those causing the efficiency. If your machine is more of the AC sinusoid, then it will not work on the square wave. And that is actually a very big percentage. Creation of harmonics and electromagnetic interference. When you look at those waveforms on the screen there, and maybe you bring your phone near, or maybe the app, you end up picking unwanted interferences. That is common with AC. Or maybe it keeps on also generating that, and as a result, unwanted signal is also taken. Then you have to labor again to see that you filter all that. Energy can be wasted due to the power factor of induction and capacitor loads. I've seen this common TV service. You find you install your TV antenna at any position. It picks. As it picks, part of the components used, they also generate. As they generate, it brings in interference in your reception. Then finally you rush back to the person who said that it is not working. When one is maybe moving around with a boda, it is also acting as a transmitter. Part of what is accelerating will again be picked. And all this brings in the harmonic and electromagnetic interference with AC. The failure of inverters. As I said, you buy it with an expectation of doing that right job for you. And you are let down. Trying it for the first time, it works. After a short while, it fails. Yes, we very well know everything can fail. But the efficiency, how long did it work before it failed? Second part of my presentation, we are going to look at multimeters. My colleague Mr. Musoke, if possible, you distribute some multimeters to the participants so that as I go through this, we shall be looking at those multimeters. So that tomorrow or the other day when people are carrying out their practical sessions, they know exactly what to do and how to use the multimeter. Here on the screen, mine is yellow, but all the same. A digital multimeter can be of any color. But what is important how it operates and how to use it. So on top we have the first arrow pointing at the screen. This is where we read our values. The second one is the functional switch. This one you see in the middle. Depending on your selection, you will be able to read on the screen. For example, if you look at this, the selection is in the diode range. So when you want to measure PN junction, then you don't accidentally put the pointer in resistance or in voltage to not work. Then finally, the lower arrow is indicating where we connect the probes. Here we are pointing with relative to common is where we place our two probes. The red where you see V stroke ohms and the black here. When you place your probes here, it means you can measure DC voltage, AC voltage, resistance, and when you change probably your rate to any of these remaining two, now you are switching to current. For the third one from the right, it is when that current is in milliamps. Whereas when you choose the last one, that is when you are measuring big currents. Digital multimeter, these are also some of the equipment at least I would love one of you to have, or if not all of you. My sister mentioned that she's selling the RIs. You need a multimeter. This will use most of the questions your grants have been asking. You check the short circuit voltage. You check the open circuit current. And as you read in front of your customer, then you get to know that yes, it is really working. The worst with multimeters is when accidentally you change the range and you forget. Switch back to the exact place where you are supposed to place your positive probe. Function switch. Still on the function switch, some multimeters, they have the off-on button. I don't know those ones you've been given, but normally it's on the top. Many of us, when given a new equipment, you just keep on pressing so many buttons just to find that it worked. But if you are so sure of exactly what you are doing, you will check for the on-off button, and that will save you time. I've already told you the range where you put measure voltage, depending either the DC voltage or the alternating voltage. By turning this selection knob, it will take that range exactly you want to measure. And here when measuring voltages, you don't lose anything if you start with a big range. This saves you from blowing your multimeter. For example, you are not so sure of the output of the transformer. You put it in 2000. Then only to see that it is 20 volts. The multimeter will strip for one. But all of a sudden it was 2,200 volts and you are reporting 20, then that multimeter will not survive. number 4, that is 300 millivolts, measure small voltage. This is exactly what I say, that at least when measuring voltage, always preferably you choose a bigger range. Then when it is a small range, too small, you keep on reducing the range in order to get exactly what you want and also to be able to read it better. Ohms is for electrical resistances. This range from the diode up to around 2000 mega. This is all resistance. If you intended to measure resistance and accidentally you put the knob, your selector switch, in A, that is amps, you don't expect any reading on your screen. So here, if you are going to measure that resistance across the resistance box, then this is the range. Current, that is I, measures the continuity of the EHT of the circuit. We have this here. And also, if you check on your multimeter where there is A current and DC current by symbol of alternating current, that one of the DC. Voltage measurement. By looking at this, still takes us back that when measuring voltage, you now have to choose those two on your right, whereby the first one is the positive, and where you see common, that is the neutral. And in current number 2, it goes on explaining that connect the red lead to the red input terminal and along the black lead to the black terminal. Note the voltage limit of the multimeter, guided from your expected value, you can determine if the multimeter has the correct setting for this measurement. For example, you wanted to measure 12, and maybe you put in 2. If you are lucky your multimeter didn't blow, then it will be just showing infinity. So here you check your probes together with the selection you made. Then you'll be able to get some reading on the screen. Polarity of the voltage. Normally this happens when you are measuring DC. Accidentally you put your red probe on ground terminal. Then the other way around and you don't change. It will keep on carrying the minus on the screen. For example, you are measuring the voltage across the battery and it happens there is a minus. Check the probes. If not the probes, then the endpoints of the probes, where did you press the line? Then definitely there, that minus sign will disappear. Determining continuity. Continuity is used to check 2 points of an electrical, 2 points of a conductor, for example. If you put or you select that multimeter you have in diode range here, then you connect these 2 reeds across, for example, a wire. I would expect you to see the resistance of that wire. If there is no resistance, it doesn't mean that the multimeter is not working. You short the 2 leads just to check, maybe one of them is off. Once you find that it is making that buzzing sound, and at the same time a resistance on the screen, then you know what you are measuring. Somewhere there is discontinuity. Then you check, for example, for a replacement of what exactly happened. Current measurement. Current is measured by pressing the connectors in series with the section to measure. Normally when measuring current, what is always in our mind is that since we measure voltage from here, straight you carry that across, and that is current. No. Current, you need to change the positive depending on the current expected. Either choose for milliamps or you choose for current. Then after that, break the positive of the supply. Connect the positive of the multimeter through the multimeter, that is with the common, completing the same positive line. You will be able to read, for example, the total current flowing that such you want to turn the current. But before you achieve that, you must know exactly what you are measuring. There must be some expected value. If it is of a 12 volts battery, then no, probably it is above 5A. So you choose this range of 20 amps. If it is of a 1 cell, 1.5 cycle, then you can choose in mini amps. But still not forgetting the plugged. With digitometers, there is a chance that it will display on the screen with the negative side. But if it was an analog meter, because it can't deflect the negative, therefore you will not be able to see any deflection made. So polarity is very, very important. Resistance measurement. Resistance. You have your resistance boxes there, just people. You'll find that what you are being given as the terminals. Try to put your meter in resistance, that is in the diode range. You take the red terminal to red. From there, you carry the common dark black. Then gently you try to vary that knob on top. As you slide it, you'll be able to check the reading of that resistance. Yes, absolutely. People might have seen this before, but in science-related fields, we have two factors which actually determines our inefficiency. One is the in-use, and two, it is the out-use. So one will assume it works, it is known, but it is until you do it yourself, then you get to know that, oh yes, when I connect here, I keep on varying, I can say this. But without doing it, then you wait for that 5 time you have it. Still you have to give a call someone that can you help me? I have A, B, C, D. How do I use it? Systems of we have applicants, participants. Is there any resistance? Register. If you choose to measure maximum, then to be constant. If you put it where you are varying, then to be able to change as you slide the knob. Yes? Right. That is a filter. But it's okay if the range is too big, still you get that small value. So, yeah, you expect that also. If nothing complete is coming out there, it is not an offense, it is open. But you showed the tool. Was it making sound? To prove the meter. Yes, you showed the 2 leads first. And select the diode range. And you pressed, if you press that pH button or hold, make it light. It will not show you anything until you release. Yeah. So when you press pH, you are holding, nothing you will get. Now once again, slide. Yes. So the moment you hold, then it starts. I think it's okay now. Did you manage to get it right? I have it. Okay. interesting I've seen here. No, I said we measure resistance. We start with the left rate. If it exceeds that, then we go on. And if it is too big, until we reach the 200 mega. Sorry? The whole of this rate. It is in resistance. Yes. Of course, until you reach that resistance. For resistance, actually, I've seen some of the things. If you were measuring voltage and it happens you first connect the leads to the source, then you go on changing the voltage, I assure you your meter will not survive. You must first set the rate, then you apply. Otherwise, by first putting it there, the meter will lose weight. Where is it?
My assurance to you is that tomorrow you will enjoy these meters. You will enjoy these boxes. We are there in the sun. God gave us the sun tomorrow, and you will have enough time to play around with them. So don't feel bad that they are not reaching you. Tomorrow we shall prove you without having any bias. We shall make sure that you are mixed up so that sharing is easier.
Yes, members of the exercise, we put it at a pause and we continue over fuses. Normally with fuses, we rate them basing on the load and the demand for the current. For example, if one had checked in one of these plugs, you find that depending on what exactly it is supplying, it will have the rating. If something was of 1 amp and you replaced a fuse of probably 0.5A, by law it might work, but as you go towards maximum, that fuse might blow. The sizes. Their sizes also matters with the sockets where exactly you are plugging that fuse. I've seen this common to our houses, to our homes, where normally people replace earth wires as fuses. You open, for example, a breaker, everything was bypassed. In case of emergency, it is actually easier for the person to dial line than the fuse to break, because we don't know what the rating. We just assume we want to pass current to the final stage, but not taking into accountability of when the bad comes. Determine the maximum possible power required by adding the power in watts of all loads. When it comes to solar, because of the source, this is very crucial. The last presenter was more on the academic. Now, it is also crucial to the technical people here. If you are going to do minus this, it will not work, or you expect failures. Dividing power, or divide the power by the system voltage to get current in amps. If you recall where we started, where V is equal to IR, then the other way around, when you are calculating current, this is exactly what I'm trying to explain here. Increase this figure by 20%. That is what you got, and this is the required fuse size. Cables. Now, when it comes to cables, we say that the resistance of a cable depends on the thickness and its length. Here, if you look at these supply cables we are using to tap power from the wall socket, one might wonder, why is it all this? But someone before making this accounted for the load. Not all the time that we shall be putting one laptop, but maybe more other loads. The longer it is, the more resistance it has. The thicker it is, the less resistance it has. Those who have seen transformer wires, especially the secondary, you find that you have a very big wire, short, with less resistance, but the current it drains is big. When current and the power through a cable are big, the cable should be thick. I gave here 2.5 millimeter, even more. DC systems in general need thicker cables than the AC. We mentioned this, and actually we saw reason why. It is because of the current. And when you look at the effect of sizing power loss, if I may say that on your right, that was A, and then this was B. You can see how B can enjoy while A is really getting it in a vein go through. Finally, it has been a long time since morning. People have to cross jam. I thank you for listening.